Welcome to Red Eye. Hi, I'm Tom Shillue. Let's check in with TV's Andy Levy at the Red Eye Tees deck. Andy?
Thanks, Tom. Coming up on the big show, Donald Trump hosts his first press conference as president-elect. I'm already looking forward to the next one. Plus, a New York Times op-ed says the latest Super Mario video game has retrograde gender politics. But is the world really ready for a female plumber? And finally, a new study says that conservatives are more attractive than liberals. For those of you betting that our conservative host will disagree, all I can say is, oh, honey. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Andy. Let's welcome our guests. She checks her stocks more than a farmhand.
I do.
FBN New York Stock Exchange correspondent Lori Rothman. Out of the country, into the big city. Comedian Ross Bennett. I bet kids in middle school called him Matt Belch. Yeah. Reason Magazine editor-in-chief Matt Welch. And he looks like a guy that knows a guy that can get you what you're looking for. Sitting right next to me, comedian Jimmy Failla. Okay, let's start the show. Donald Trump held his first press conference as president-elect, and now all of the mainstream media's doubts about him have been put to rest. Trump, as usual, was very complimentary of the journalists in the room.
I just want to compliment many of the people in the room. I have great respect for the news and great respect for freedom of the press and all of that. But I will tell you, there were some news organizations, with all that was just said, that were so professional, so incredibly professional, that I've just gone up a notch as to what I think of you, okay?
Not every news organization, however, has earned his respect.
As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage.
BuzzFeed on Tuesday published a report that Russia had obtained compromising personal and financial information on Trump. The president-elect adamantly denied the claims.
I saw the information, I read the information outside of that meeting. It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen.
That's it, Lori. Fake news. Phony stuff didn't happen. What do you think?
What do I think about Trump's response to it, or whether or not this stuff is actually real
let's go.
credible?
Tell me what you think about the credibility of this stuff, the BuzzFeed stuff.
Oh, well, first of all, BuzzFeed should just definitely stick to the quizzes. I thought that.
Yeah, top 10.
I thought it was just absolutely ludicrous for BuzzFeed to put this out and say it's unsubstantiated. They kept, qualifying it like, hey, we got this. We haven't verified it.
Yeah.
The sources, I don't know, but hey, this is pretty salacious stuff, so let's just go with it.
Yeah.
In terms of Trump and how he handled it, I thought he was pretty straightforward about how he felt about it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Well, obviously, it was about him.
And
so if he knows he wasn't involved in this stuff, if he knows there is untrue stuff in there, he might as well go for it and say they're a pile of garbage, right?
And I think he totally debunked this Russian dossier thing. I think he was, I'm almost using the word eloquent.
Yeah.
Is that kind of shocking? In separating and saying, yes, I think the Russians are behind the hacking and the DNC wasn't properly protected.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this Russian dossier about my dealings with Russia and this compromising information on him, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I think he totally pushed it aside, and I think the media moves on tomorrow.
Yeah. Jimmy, is it a failing pile of garbage, BuzzFeed?
Oh, BuzzFeed?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was busy finding out which of the Russian peeing hookers I would be. But I want to say this because there's this big outcry on the left of how offensive this is. Even if it's true, and Trump paid money to watch a urination show, it is not nearly the most sexually deviant thing a president has done. It's close, but no cigar. So you follow me? Well, we had a president have sex with a girl with a cigar. This isn't that crazy.
And that wasn't too long ago either.
BuzzFeed garbage, they deserved what they got, is what I'm trying to say. And all I kept thinking as I was watching it was, thank God we elected him, because this is fun. Could you imagine 4 years of Hillary press conferences?
That's what I was thinking today.
It's a nightmare. One reporter asks a question, then they all have to chip in to pay her speaking fee before she'll answer it. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Okay, Trump also addressed one of the more sensational claims in the unverified document BuzzFeed published. Take a look.
Does anyone really believe that story? I'm also very much of a germaphobe, by the way. Believe me.
What do you think, Matt? Does germaphobe dispel what was contained in the? I didn't really read all the stuff.
Germaphobe would, even though there's been some credible reporting. The Huffington Post today was talking about how urine actually is sterile.
I can't believe
this is very important.
that we're discussing these things, right?
Which goes to Jimmy's point of this actually is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the phrase "pile of garbage" is just something that we haven't been trained to expect from a presidential candidate. I should point out, in fairness to CNN, who was called fake news, there was a fun little back and forth with Jim Acosta over there. What Trump was trying to do was to throw the BuzzFeed act onto CNN. CNN reported that 4 top intel chiefs debriefed the president and the president-elect that the Russians feel like they have some stuff on Trump. That it seems like happened, right? So what Trump is trying to do is to use this dossier, which does not pass the smell test, although we all want it to be true. Let's be honest. It's hilarious. It's really fun. I want Jerry Falwell Jr. to be defending this for the next 4 years because it's really, really funny. But it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't smell. Someone who is a germaphobe is not going to be like, you know what? You're in sterile, so I'm good. Get it. Bring the showers this way. That's not going to happen.
Ross, could you hold anything against Trump anyway? What could you hold over his head?
What can I hold over his head?
I mean, you can't. He's got the Hollywood, the Access Hollywood tape. He's done things. I don't think anything would shock anybody, right?
He's willing to admit to anything.
Yes.
You know, he has no problem with anything that's been said about him whatsoever.
Right.
And he, as a germaphobe, I'm a germaphobe myself. I can't even check into a hotel without burning my clothes the next day. Okay, so I can completely relate to what he's saying.
Do you trust those sheets they put on the beds when you check in?
I bring my own.
During the press conference, the president-elect also called out CNN for reporting that intelligence officials told Trump that Russia attempted to compromise him. That led to this exchange between Trump and CNN's Jim Acosta.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance? You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir? Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect, can you state categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir, can you...
Finger pointing.
You don't like the finger pointing?
Oh, he's a character. In this case, he once again becomes a caricature of himself with the screaming and the back and forth and the finger pointing.
Don't you have to point though at a press conference? You point. I want you. I don't want you.
It's not that big of a finger. Let's relax.
Well,
I see.
That's another story.
He did something that no president's ever done. Presidents have done this before. They've done this, but they've never gone. No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's never dismissed somebody. It's beautiful.
Do you think?
It's beautiful.
But this is CNN. Is CNN fake news? Do you agree with the president?
I don't think it's fake news. I do think they have an interesting take on the news. You know, they kind of do to news what Oliver Stone did with the JFK assassination. It gives you a lot of different options.
Yes, right. That's what they could put that on their banner.
Quite as entertaining.
Yeah, I always love it. I'm always suspicious of a news service when the reporter says, "Okay, how about this?"
Exactly, Matt. What I like this kind of back and forth. To me, it's part of the Trump honesty. It doesn't, he's yelling at the press. He doesn't like the press.
He doesn't, and there's going to be, and he's chosen them and has for a long time them as his chief antagonist.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is he's baiting them because if they all tomorrow, and they're going to sit and say, we have to recognize that we're at war here. We really need to dig our trenches deeper. That's just going to, I think, cement his popularity. People like this type of thing on the outside. So it's a real tough thing for journalists to do, to not take the bait if they want to do good work, but also do work that convinces people who didn't already agree with them to begin with.
Look, Trump just, sealed the deal, and when he came out off the top and said, "I respect freedom of the press" and all that stuff,
And Mike Pence did the same thing. He's like, normally I really like the First Amendment, but that's a little bit troubling, considering that they have people like Peter Thiel in their inner circle who's trying to sue people out of business, sometimes over things that make sense, sometimes over things that don't make any sense at all. It is genuinely troubling for people who are defending freedom of the press right now to be grappling with these people, but they're also going to be hyperventilating every step of the way, including at that exchange, which is just, as you put it, like, an honest way of what always happens, which presidents freeze out the people who are being jerks.
They freeze them out, but they do it in a polite way, right?
Yes.
Okay, during the presser, Trump conceded that Russia probably hacked into the DNC.
As far as hacking, I think it was Russia, but I think we also get hacked by other countries and other people.
Trump added, hacking's bad, but look what we learned.
But remember this, we talk about the hacking, and hacking's bad, and it shouldn't be done. But look at the things that were hacked. Look at what was learned from that hacking. That Hillary Clinton got the questions to the debate and didn't report it? That's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing. Can you imagine that if Donald Trump got the questions to the debate, it would have been the biggest story in the history of stories, and they would have said, immediately you have to get out of the race. Nobody even talked about it. It's a very terrible thing.
Trump was then asked if he would undo what President Obama had done to punish Russia.
Well, if Putin likes Donald Trump, I consider that an asset, not a liability, because we have a horrible relationship with Russia. Russia can help us fight ISIS, which, by the way, is number one tricky. I mean, if you look, this administration created ISIS by leaving at the wrong time. The void was created, ISIS was formed. If Putin likes Donald Trump, guess what, folks? That's called an asset, not a liability. Now, I don't know that I'm going to get along with Vladimir Putin. I hope I do, but there's a good chance I won't. And if I don't, do you honestly believe that Hillary would be tougher on Putin than me?
Do you honestly believe that, Jimmy? What do you think?
No, I mean, poor Hillary must have wanted a drink watching this press conference, but she couldn't find her server. Hey, see what I did there? But I actually love these press conferences. Because a typical presidential press conference is like watching the Harvard debate squad. This is like bum fights. Just guys flailing in the street, throwing random shots. I enjoyed it. What I enjoy about him the most, and I think it's going to grow on people, is he's like an NFL wide receiver. Like, you know how he talks about himself in the third person all the time? You know what I mean? Like Terrell Owens just don't want to worry about anything but Terrell. That's what he's doing. I think it's great.
There was a guy, do you remember in Boardwalk Empire, there was that guy who spoke of himself in the first person?
Maybe I don't watch television.
Oh, okay.
I'm a monk. But to answer your question, like Jimmy here, it's ridiculous to imagine that Hillary Clinton wouldn't be tougher on Vladimir Putin. I mean, that's one of the endearing and just bizarre things about Donald Trump is he just says any old crazy crap that comes to his mind. Of course, Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win instead of Hillary Clinton. Of course.
Now, why of course? Tell me why of course, because I don't know if that's because
Hillary Clinton is much more of a foreign policy interventionist, because Hillary Clinton got involved with Russia's messing around with Ukraine and elections in Russia after the reset, which was a disaster. It didn't work. Total disaster.
But would she be tougher on him? He said tougher.
Yes. Oh my God, how many times does he have to fluff Vladimir Putin in public before you might think that maybe he's not going to be so tough on Vladimir Putin? He hasn't said a boo about one of the world's worst actors on stage right now, even though he's been offered plenty of opportunities for it. Of course, Putin wants Trump. Putin wants people like him and has been supporting people like him, nationalist politicians, all throughout the West. This is a well-established pattern. It's not a conspiracy. Okay. It's an aligned interest. Of course he prefers Trump over Hillary.
About 40 minutes into the press conference, there was a brief intermission.
American pride. It's attitude, it's who we are. Stand up tall.
When they were done, Trump talked about a recent business opportunity.
Over the weekend, I was offered $2 billion to do a deal in Dubai with a very, very, very amazing man, a great, great developer from the Middle East, Hussein Damak. A friend of mine, great guy.
Anyway, he took the $2 billion. I'm kidding.
And I turned it down. I didn't have to turn it down because, as you know, I have a no conflict situation because I'm president, which is, I didn't know about that until about 3 months ago, but it's a nice thing to have. But I don't want to take advantage of something. I have something that others don't have.
Lori,
Yes.
you were
On the
watching
floor
this,
of the exchange today.
and you were watching this as the markets were. Tell me what happened with the
Well,
markets.
he was just kicking the markets around. I mean, I was joking with some colleagues that we needed Dramamine to follow the market. It opened up.
Yep.
And then he started trashing drug companies and defense contractors because he needs to bring the cost of these F-35 fighter jet projects way down. So then the market just bottomed out. And then he starts talking about this Dubai deal. And then there was another thing he said about, and I'm going to have big news about a factory opening in the Midwest and
Yeah.
more jobs. And then the market swung up again. And so when all was said and done, the market, closed about 100 points up. But covering this stuff, I mean, the market has been, as you know, on a tear since the election.
Yes.
But he has to be very careful, and don't make a joke about this, Jimmy,
Okay.
of raining on his own parade. Because
Wow.
the market is really sensitive to every little thing he says.
Well, is
I
that
mean,
Trump, or do you and your business friends have to stop being such nervous Nellies?
It's not me. It's Trump, and there's really nothing else going on for traders to, key in on.
Right.
It's really just what he's saying, what he's going to do with the infrastructure spending and corporate tax policy and roll back the regulations, and all this is great news. And then he says, oh, well, Toyota, you can't, build factories overseas, or, he was picking on the car makers last week. And then
Yeah.
this week he's, picked today on the drug makers and the defense contractors, Lockheed Martin to be
Well, so
exact.
far it's been working with the market, right?
Overall, yes.
Overall,
but
yes.
he's taken, he'll take 3 giant steps forward and then 1 big step backwards. And for what it's worth, the Dow 20,000. Everybody's very critical of the hype about this big milestone, but it's an important point of accomplishment to get to Dow 20,000, which we have not seen yet. We came within 1
thought we
point
got
the other
there.
day. No, came within 1
Oh.
point, and it's because of these concerns out there. Trump, Russia, perhaps out there, and again, these specific. Instances with the trade policy and other things.
All right, so what were those papers on the table next to Trump? Trump explained at the end of his press conference.
These papers are all just a piece of the many, many companies that are being put into trust to be run by my 2 sons. And I hope at the end of 8 years I'll come back and I'll say, oh, you did a good job. Otherwise, if they do a bad job, I'll say, you're fired. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, the big
Goodbye.
closer.
Ross, that was a good closer, wasn't it?
Yeah. You cut it off right before he actually then said, thank you, good night. I'll be here all week.
Exactly. Well, do you think that, the Trump kids are going to be good stewards of the company?
I always want the interesting choice. I'd rather that it all be turned over to Barron Trump. I would like to see like $6 billion basically put into video games and kicking back.
Exactly. I mean, Barron deserves to do some of the company, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought he was staying in New York for the first 6 months. Because
Yeah.
aren't they staying till he finishes 5th grade?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm like the wrong guy to talk to about this. Because
No, you're the right guy.
I know, it's for you, yeah. Because I really did. I loved everything about this. I love that the binders didn't open up. It was like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. They just built up so much intrigue. And what's funny is at the end of the press conference, more people wanted to eat those binders than they did when he had the Trump steaks on the table that day. They were just
Did you see
sitting
those
there.
steaks?
Yeah, that was,
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
scary.
nasty, yeah.
That's funny, but I liked it.
We didn't know what was in that briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Wasn't
They
it?
never show
I thought
you.
it was the soul of Marcellus.
I don't know. They never quite articulate what it was.
Okay, that's my theory. Coming up, your princess is in another castle, but is that where she belongs? Super Mario gets called sexist after the break. The bros have finally come to the iPhone. The Nintendo game Super Mario Bros. Run was released in the App Store and shot to the top of the charts with more than 37 million downloads. But not everyone's a fan. The New York Times has a problem with Mario's not-so-super gender politics. In an op-ed piece, Chris Sullentrop complains the game is rife with stale, retrograde gender stereotypes. Elements that were perhaps expected in 1985 when the first Super Mario Bros. Was released in the United States, but that today are just embarrassing. Yeah, way back in the 80s, before equality was invented. Other problems he sees with the game. It starts with Princess Peach becoming a hostage who must be rescued by Mario, very sexist. And Princess Peach also bakes a cake for Mario and gives him a kiss when rescued. Suellentrop says he won't let his 6-year-old daughter play the game and would prefer it if Nintendo would follow the lead of Disney, with powerful female characters like Elsa from Frozen and Rey from The Force Awakens. But are we putting too much pressure on young women to always have powerful, confident role models and be kick-ass? Sometimes they just want to be rescued by a pudgy Italian plumber. Or by this dude. Lori, you looked bored during that. That guy was shredding the theme. Did you see that?
I was very impressed. I was actually trying to figure out
You were sitting like this. You were looking around.
Well, I was trying to figure out if it was a recent clip or something you pulled from way back when, like a Stranger Things type era.
Yeah, I don't. It's a couple of years old, but the whole reason I did the monologue was so I could show that guy playing that riff.
He definitely had talent.
Yeah.
Give him that.
What do you think of this?
Skills.
I think women are under too much pressure to always be. Now, they can't be vulnerable at all.
Yes, and I think you are sadly mistaken if you think your kid's going to get any life lesson or any clue as to gender equality from playing a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't let their 6-year-old play the video game regardless. Yeah. Am I right, Matt Welch?
Do you see gender in that level of animation?
No.
It's like seeing gender in Pokemon. It's like the shapes are all wrong.
I didn't know it was females, honestly. I knew he was rescuing something.
I didn't even really ever understand that he was a plumber. Like it's just like these squat little bad drawings from a different era. I don't understand. Never have.
Well, it's I guess maybe it's not important, Ross.
Well, if this guy was offended by this, he should have seen the beta type come through.
Oh yeah,
the beta. I think she was pole dancing in that one.
Yeah, that's
a little bit.
It's terrible. What do you think? This game, it took off. I don't think anybody cares about this stuff. Should the New York Times be worrying about other stuff, Jimmy?
Whoever wrote this article is an oxygen thief. Complete dope.
That's rough.
Wow.
It's a video game. We have to stop training kids to get offended. The only way your daughter is upset by the casting in a video game is if you have trained her to seek out offense. The game is called Super Mario Brothers. It's a reboot because it was popular in the 80s, which means people were fine with the casting. If we're going to hold them accountable, I think the Wildlife Association should be upset about the 4 million turtles that get killed on level 1 alone. I mean, the women do much better than the turtles in Super Mario Brothers, let alone the mushroom crop.
They kill turtles, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing now. They have a lot of female video games like Miss Pac-Man, Miss
Zelda. Pac-Man, she's a feminist, isn't she?
But the point is, no one made a big deal when we came out with Miss Pac-Man because we weren't looking, we were just like, yeah, it's a video game. We weren't placing that much stock in this. It's so stupid. I find it to be stupid. Like, should we have a female Donkey Kong where she throws the barrels at you and then tells you why afterwards for an hour and a half?
Stop.
I don't think so.
Resist.
And you know what else the New York Times did in that article that drove me crazy? Is they chastised them for not having more like life lessons in the game. Because they were like, there's a video game.
But here's the other side of the argument.
That's the thing. Learning social lessons is big in video games now.
So there's a big problem, right? You've got a kid, you know that they can just zero in on these screens and they become isolated, entrenched, addicted, and that's
when
where
you
the
have sex with your
problem.
wife. That's why you get them addicted to that phone, so you have the 28 minutes.
And so if you can put a little bit of messaging, God, you're the worst, a little bit of messaging in there that, maybe this is how you can interact and engage with real people, maybe there's a little bit of good done.
I feel like if we're depending on video games to teach our kids right and wrong, we've failed.
We don't totally. I agree with you.
So I agree with you, Lori.
I'm just trying to understand where the New York Times is coming from.
Jimmy is the worst. Okay, coming up, the SME to my hook. Andy Levy is back with halftime. But first, Kennedy. Welcome back, everybody. Time to find out what we got wrong and what we missed from TV's Andy Levy over in the Red Eye News Deck. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Let's talk about the Trump presser, shall we?
Yeah.
Talk about some BuzzFeed action. Lori, you said you thought it was ludicrous for BuzzFeed to put out the dossier. May I make a counter argument?
Please.
Okay. The problem, in my opinion, isn't that BuzzFeed published the dossier. They made it clear that it was full of unverified stuff, and that there was.
I said that.
I know, and that there was stuff in there that they knew to be in error. Mm-hmm. The problem, I think, is that in today's world, nobody reads disclaimers and nobody cares about them. For example, I've lost track of how many times on this show I've had to explain that no, Hillary did not have a server in her bathroom. That kind of information gets out there, and then everyone thinks that it's the case. But Here's why I've come to think that maybe BuzzFeed was okay with publishing this. This document was circulating around the highest levels of government. It was being used by people, unscrupulous people like Senator Harry Reid, as evidence of Russia's ties to Trump and Trump's ties to Russia. Mm-hmm. If this is going to be used as evidence in the court of public opinion, then let the people see what's in there.
Good point. I guess I'm old school in that I actually look for attributions and sources. I'm obviously one of the people who, the very small percentage of people who kind of still do that.
Right. So you're saying I've changed your mind?
So what?
You're saying I've changed your mind?
No, I see.
Excellent.
I see your point. No, but I think they're
moving on.
But wouldn't it have carried more weight if even if the New York Times had put it out there? So why didn't the New York Times, Washington Post, even the New York Post put it out? Why was it? I mean, I honestly, the last time I read BuzzFeed was to do the quiz to see which Harry Potter house I would be sorted into.
Yeah, that's a silly attack on BuzzFeed. They have they do a lot of politics and culture stuff in addition to their
and
lists.
I think there's a pet newsletter too.
Yeah, there is, but there's also it's just okay. I mean, whatever. Failla, you said there's a lot of outrage on the left about the dumb story about Trump and the Russian hotel. I haven't seen any of that. I've seen a lot of jokes.
Like mockery. That's what I mean by it as mockery.
I don't really think anyone thinks that really happened.
No, well, first of all, even if it did, I think most people like that about him.
No, I'm not so sure.
It's like the Access Hollywood team. Nobody wants to admit that it helped him. A lot of guys were like, oh yeah, he's one of us. He's a mess. Yeah. Like, think of it this way. If Hillary would have got caught saying, I grabbed them by the package, she would have won in a landslide. Bill would have voted for her.
Bill wouldn't have believed it. By the way, I think we have a picture. Can we put this up? Not long after the presser, BuzzFeed started selling failing pile of garbage T-shirts and bumper stickers and other stuff with the proceeds going to the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Oh,
yeah.
I wish they just kept the money.
Yeah. One day only. I think at first they were, and then people were sort of calling them out on it, and then they decided they better do that. I think that's what happened. It was a one-day thing, though, so by the time this airs, it's gone. Oh. Too late. Sorry, Matt. Matt, also, you pointed out how Trump conflated CNN and BuzzFeed, which, let's be clear about, he intended to do.
Yeah.
This is why I think BuzzFeed putting this dossier out, I think it's good for Trump. I think now anytime someone brings up Trump and Russia, all he has to do is point to that report and say, you see how stupid all this nonsense is?
Yeah, and you can say fake news, which is a great term that it took less than, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? For it to completely bite both the journalistic establishment and the left on the rear end. Yeah. Partly because they abused it from the beginning themselves by linking, the Daily Caller with fake news. And say what you want about Tucker Carlson's brainchild here, but it's a news outlet.
Yeah. By the way, we say nothing but good things about Tucker Carlson's brainchild.
I said say what you want. That was an open invitation, Andy.
Okay. The CNN stuff. Ross, you said CNN does to news what Oliver Stone did to the JFK assassination. I hope, and I don't think you were, I just want to make sure, I hope you're not besmirching one of the greatest films of all time.
Exactly what I'm doing. It's
so disappointing.
Yeah, you have to understand, it was a single shooter from the back, and Peter Jennings said it, okay? So just back off.
I know there's nothing in Oliver Stone JFK that's true. It's still one of the greatest films of all time.
It's some of the greatest editing of all time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, it's some of the greatest editing. But when you have 7 conspiracy theories, any one of which is a fake, and you put them all together, the truth is, you're right. It is one of the best films of all time.
All right. That's all I wanted to hear. Matt, you said that Trump is baiting CNN. Yeah, we here at Fox News have no idea what it's like for a president to do that.
Yeah. Sure.
That's so true.
Trump says he thinks it was Russia that hacked the DNC. Tom, do you now think that it was Russia that hacked the DNC?
It might be Russia. So other people too. China.
Okay. Also, what is number one tricky?
It's number one tricky.
Is that dialogue from Full Metal Jacket or something?
So that's the T-shirt I want to sell. Number one tricky.
Yeah, and who wrote up the scouting report on ISIS that tricky was the number one thing to watch out for?
Yeah, I don't know. This stuff about Trump's businesses. Lori, is it even arguable that Trump should have put all his businesses in a blind trust?
Is it arguable?
Shouldn't he have?
I think so. I mean,
isn't it weird to just give it to your kids?
He couldn't divest it. I actually thought, okay, listen, they're all going to sit back at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, there's no way they're not going to discuss business.
Right.
I don't think there's a perfect solution.
Blind trust is pretty good.
But how can you, Andy, like that lawyer mentioned, I forget her name, she got up in the press conference, she mentioned you can't put things like Trump Tower in a blind trust.
Why not?
I don't know, she said you can't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's got
All I
so
remember
many
from her-
holdings that you know, he's going to put them in a blind trust, but I mean, these things have to be, someone has to manage them and run them.
Right, the person managing the blind trust.
Right, but
Wow.
it's just too vast. I think his empire is too vast. Although he's putting that
maybe.
ethics advisor in, that I thought was interesting. I mean, maybe that's kind of their version of.
Yeah. I never trust an ethics advisor you name yourself.
But what else was he going to do? What else was he going to do with Don Jr. and Eric?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't really have a role for them, right?
I know. All right, let's get to Super Mario. Laura, you said you're sadly mistaken if you think your kid is going to learn anything about gender equality from a video
here it
game.
comes.
No, this
Lay
is
it on
true.
me.
I completely agree with you, mainly because Sue Ellentrop, who wrote the op-ed, is completely correct that video games have gender issues. You're not going to learn anything about them. I don't fully agree with him. I think not letting your kid play the game is kind of stupid, but he's not wrong about video games' gender issues. And Failla, you named Ms. Pac-Man and Zelda as female heroes?
Tomb Raider. There's more. I mean, I can go on for days. I don't have the pot habit you might, so I don't know.
Just to be clear, I don't have a pot habit, which is probably why I know that the hero of the Zelda games is a dude named Link, and Zelda is the princess he has.
Oh, is that she? So it's also like a Mario thing?
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
I can do that.
All right. I'm done.
Thank you, Andy. Yep. Coming up, science says conservatives are better looking than liberals. Here's proof.
Yeah, I got it.
New research reveals that conservative politicians really are better looking than their lefty counterparts. A study by the Journal of Public Economics asked people to rate the attractiveness of candidates from America, Europe, and Australia. The results showed that there is a beauty advantage for those on the right. Researchers had a couple of theories as to why. One, good-looking people tend to earn more money and so generally end up being more conservative. And good-looking people are treated better, which makes them think the world is fair as it is, which would steer them away from left-wing politics. I wasn't sure if this study got it right, so let's look at two totally random examples. I guess the study's right. Jimmy, what do you think? What do you think of the theories that they published? You know, the idea that they have more money, they're happier because people treat them better.
Well, that's accurate. I mean, there is no greater, when people talk about privilege in society, hot girl privilege is the most entitled thing on earth. There's nothing to compare it to. In terms of people who can do things and open doors easier, it is predicated on looks. But if conservative politicians are really better looking, how do they explain Chris Christie? Or that heartthrob Mitch McConnell? No, I like Christie. I like them both.
He's a handsome face.
Who,
yes,
Christie? Yeah.
He does.
I have great theory on Christie, how he would look better. He should just wear his pants lower. I've met Chris. He's not. People try to call him
yeah, he wears it up high. He wears it proud like Jackie Gleason.
He's Jimmy Failla fat. I just know where to put my belt. That's all it is.
What do you think, Lori?
Yeah.
Do you think that it makes sense? Conservatives are better looking?
No, I believe that beauty is not only skin deep, and this is just a bunch of baloney.
It is skin deep. We're saying just by looks. We're not looking inside for this study.
I hate these kinds of things because it just kind of adds to the, it makes it okay to be superficial and shallow and materialistic and.
Easy for a gorgeous woman to say.
Yeah, Lori.
Why is it?
No, I don't know why. I don't know why I went to you after that. I will let you chime in here, Ross.
Why is it then all of Hollywood, which is basically liberal, is so attractive?
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa, you ruined everything.
I have found the flaw to their logic.
Yes, well, they said politicians. Ross.
No, they didn't. They said conservative.
Okay, all right.
They said conservative.
Oh, I thought they said
But they were looking at politicians. Matt, I know you have a theory, and you're going to blow this all apart.
My theory is that every single study that purports to show that conservatives or Republicans are X compared to liberals and Democrats is a stupid study.
What?
It's stupid, and it's designed to demonstrate that there should be less social sciences and not more, because it's dumb. Obviously, libertarians are the best looking. They just are little. They rock back and forth and kind of look at the wall a lot. But
there is a look though to libertarians, even just basing on the ones that come through on this show, Matt.
Yeah.
And you're kind of the model that we're looking for. Yeah, I mean, you're like you're the I don't say you're the typical, but you're the zenith of the libertarian.
I don't know, man. You look like Dave Smith right now with your terrible stubble, right?
Yeah, that's right. I kind of do.
Maybe
I was waiting for the close-up on that.
Maybe you're getting more libertarian now. That
I may. I feel more liberty when I'm unshaven. Coming up, the latest and greatest internet trend, bread facing. And a brand new episode of the Red Eye Podcast. It's available. Subscribe on iTunes and on FoxNewsRadio.com. Coming up tomorrow on the next Red Eye, Bill McMorris, Harrison Greenbaum, Jill Dobson, and Scott Chaplin, and Gavin McInnes. Sometimes internet fads confuse me. Other times they really speak to me. This video is the latter. The anonymous woman's Instagram account, Breadface Blog, has more than 33,000 followers, me included, who tune in to watch her ritual of rolling her face in various types of bread set to music. Let's see a few more.
Oh, yes.
Matt, you waited till now to watch these videos. You held off on us.
Can I say that I'm aroused on television? It was the icing of the donuts that
was it.
It was?
I was the matzah was kind of like I was starting to think that maybe she's weird.
Well, I wanted to show
Maybe she's weird.
the diversity of bread products, leavened, unleavened, everything. Lori, what do you think?
I get it.
You do?
I really do.
Wait, why do you?
So those of us who watch our carbohydrate intake to maintain good health, just the smell of fresh bread and carbs is just so alluring.
So you would watch this for the carbs? That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I watch this. It sounds like maybe
I would take a loaf of Wonder White bread over
Hello, can you talk slower?
That's good. Jimmy,
over any kind of candy or junk food ever.
She's the bread, okay? Now, but it's bread and face. It's not just about the bread.
I almost want to recuse myself because it's New Year's and I'm trying to give up bread and Asian women, and this isn't helping. No, I'm trying to hold a family together, Shillue.
Yeah.
This is an easy story for me to cover over here.
This just proves one more time that the Atkins diet can just be taken so far, and then you snap. You snap. You gotta do something.
Right, exactly.
This poor woman, you go into keratosis, and eventually you snap.
That's interesting. So you think I thought she was providing a service, but you're saying that she really has she says that she eats you may be right, Lori, because she eats the product after she's done making the video, she says.
So good thing it's not going to waste.
Yeah.
I just wish it was coleslaw.
I'm sure
That'd be great,
Yeah.
That's funny.
you just gave someone an idea for a
That's
new
right.
page.
Very special thanks, Lori Rothman, Ross Bennett, Matt Welch, and Jimmy Failla. That does it for me. I'm Tom Shillue. I got to go get a loaf of bread.